Hello and good day to everyone. This video, me, Yew Hui Xian, and my team members, which is Rajeswari, Syasya, Aqilah, Aina, Qistina, and Puteri Aina, would like to talk about topic Trespass. So, what is trespass? Trespass is a form of criminal and tort law. Also, trespass can be both civil and criminal wrong because it can cause injury to a person. For example, violations for legal right as well as damage to one person and property substantially if a physical attack takes place. Trespass is often seen that people want to protect their body and also their properties, whether they are movable or can't move. People usually seem to worry that their personal or property is vulnerable to the negative factor, and they are willing to embezzle and exploit their wealth with malicious intent. This kind of worry about large sections need to be dealt with the iron fist of the law. The law will deal with actions that require compensations or punishments. This behavior may only have an evil intention to invade someone's property by deliberately touching someone, without specifying any reason for the behavior, and the law is often applied and has evolved to strike a delicate balance between excluding the private right of others and sometimes serving public and private interests for social value by allowing unauthorized access to instance. Therefore, it is necessary to determine the exact problem and its solutions. So, trespass is a serious issue that includes both civil and criminal key elements. The difference between criminal trespass and civil trespass is that in the former, the intentions of entry should be to commit crime or to intimidate, insult, or annoy the person who owns the property. Trespass can be said to be an action exceeding the limit curved by the law. It is an intentionally direct, unreasonable interference with one person and properties. Trespass allegations can be leveled if the interference is with one and third person body and the private properties. It is to keep in mind that intentions form the essential components of trespass. So, there are three types of trespass. First, trespass to a person. Second, trespass to land. And the last one is trespass to goods.
What's the meaning of trespass to the person? Trespass to the person is actually a tort which involves a wrong being done to an individual. It will not only happen by an accident. It can even arise when the victim suffers no physical harm. So, trespass to the person is actually an intentional tort. And there are three main wrongs falls under trespass to the person. First would be assault, second would be battery, and third would be false imprisonment. I've told there are three main wrongs falls under trespass to the person. In tort, an assault occurs when a person apprehends immediate and unlawful physical contact due to intention of another. For an example, if you're fearing of being attacked physically, you are victim of an assault. Meanwhile, battery, it's not necessary to have a physical touch with someone to cause a permanent damage or an injury, but the only intention required is to make a physical touch. For an example, you don't need to touch someone to make a injury or to cause a damage, but you can commit battery through speeding on someone or throwing stone on someone. Meanwhile, false imprisonment can also be committed when the victim is unaware that they are being restrained, but it must be a fact that they are being restrained. False imprisonment deals with inconvenience sustained by intentional restriction of movement, and also total restraints by external limit of powers, even it's temporary, and also compel or confine to stay in one place against one's will, for which there is a complete loss of freedom.
What is meant by trespass to land? Trespass to land means interference with the possession of land without lawful justification. In trespass, the interference with the possession is direct and through some tangible object. To constitute the wrong of trespass, neither force nor unlawful intention nor actually damage is necessary. How proving trespass to land entry. The defendant must intend enter the land that is the subject of the trespass. It's not required that the defendant intended to do so wrongful. So, entering land by mistake can be a trespass in some state. Causing an object or thing to enter someone's property can also be considered as a trespass. Secondly is a property of another. A trespass claim must be true by a person with a legal interest in the property, such as an owner or tenant. Thirdly is without owner consent. Entry into the property must be unauthorized, either explicitly or implied. For example, the police and postal carriers has implied consent to be on a most residential property. So, a trespass cause of the action will fail in such cases. And lastly is damage. In most states, to establish a viable claim, some damage must be suffered. The defendant didn't need to intend to cause the harm, but the defendant's conduct must be a substantial factor in causing the harm suffered. What damage are available? A property owner or tenant has a right to compensation for the injury caused by the trespass. Depending on the nature of the trespass, you may be able to recover for the following damage: loss of market value, cost of restoration, loss of the use of the property, physical injury to the person or to the land, emotional distress, discomfort and annoyances. When a permanent injury to real property occurs, the general measure of damage is the loss of fair market value. In case of the temporary injury, the cost to repair or restore is the common basis for an award. However, when the cost to repair or restore exceeds the decrease in market value to such a degree that repairs are no longer economically feasible, then damage are awarded only for the loss of the market value. Injunction and liability for injury to the trespasses. First, I will explain about getting an injunction. Maybe you don't need compensation for damage. You just want the trespass to stop, and injunction is often the best way to stop repeated trespassing. Many state courts have a form to help you draft your request, talk to the clerk of the court or an attorney to understand your filing requirements. After the issuance of injunction, the court will order the trespass to stop. If the offending conduct continues, the police will enforce the injunction, and you can file for contempt of court. And for liability for injury to trespass generally, a property owner or a tenant is not responsible for the injuries of a trespass. But this does not mean the property owner on not duty to a trespass. The following situation where trespass can be liable for damage suffered by someone not rightfully on your property. And now, how about discover trespass? When a landowner or tenant discover or anticipate trespass, they must warn or make a safe conceal. Unsafe, artificial condition involving risk of death or serious body harm. You don't need to see the people who trespass to know of their presences. A pet worn in the earth or trash left behind in a building is enough to make trespass discovered. Thank you.
Hi and Assalamualaikum. I'm Aina Qistina. Trespass to goods. Definition. Trespass to good is a direct interference by one person with another person's possession or goods. For a trespass action to be successful, the plaintiffs must show that they were in possession of the goods at the time of the interference, like they were in possession of the good at the same time of the interference and the act was intentional and direct. For example, smashing the windscreen of another person's car is direct interference, but locking a room where someone's goods are left is not direct interference, unless those goods were intentionally locked away without the knowledge and permission of the owner. Next, the thought of trespass to goods protect the right of the plaintiff to possess their goods and to maintain the physical condition of their goods without the interference of others. The main remedy is a claim for damages for conviction like delivery of goods plus damages for consequential loss or full value of good plus consequential loss. The trespass can take a variety of forms. The defendant may remove the goods from the plaintiff's possession or shift them to another location. These acts constitute a direct interference even though the goods may not have been damaged. Defenses to trespass good. First, the plaintiff was not in possession of the good at the time of the unlawful interference. Whether or not the person who was in possession of the good was the actual owner of the goods is irrelevant. Only the person who had actual possession of the goods at the time of interference has the ability to sue. Second, the interference was indirect. Third, the interference was not intentional. In case where there has been an accidental interference rather than a deliberate, a person who, while excavating, accidentally damaged a cable owned by the plaintiff will not be liable if he or she had no way of knowing the cable was there. Thank you.
As you can see, here are the supporting documents related to trespass. Number 1, 2 farmers charged with trespassing on Sultan Johor's land. And number 2, Chinese national fined 300,000 for trespassing into Malaysian waters. Number 3, Malaysia detains 60 Chinese nationals, 6 vessels for trespassing. And number 4, 4 men claim trial to trespassing on Gombak Welfare Home. Law cases related to trespass. Number 1, Priest vs. Clemens. Priest is the lessee of the land. Priest had permitted the Clemens to use trail to access their home. Clemens wants to subdivide his land and sell lots. Priest thought that would bring negative effect for his land, therefore he blocked the trail. Clemens obtained an interim injunction that required Priest to remove the obstruction and allow the use of the trail. The court concluded in accordance with the statute that Priest had every right to prevent the trespassing, therefore allowing Priest to win the case. Number 2, Paisley vs. Clarkson. The defendant owned land adjoining the plaintiff, and in mowing his own land, he involuntarily and by mistake mowed down some grass on the land of belonging to the plaintiff. The plaintiff had judgment for 2 shillings. In conclusion, trespass can be faced by people innumerable times in a day, but what is important is to truly understand the nature of Trespass Act, property, loss and impact of it on the plaintiff. If the nature of the act is itself suggestive of a wrongful incident, voluntarily undertaken to constrain the enjoyment of the right to exclude, from the private property. Then evaluation of all possible resources to recoup the damage should be identified. The fourth test when deciding trespass disputes, a court should evaluate the following factors. Number 1, the nature and character of the trespass. Number 2, the nature of the protected property. Number 3, the amount and substantiality of the trespass. And number 4, the impact of the trespass on the owner's property interests.